Welcome everybody to the June 10th, 2025 Active Transportation Committee meeting held by the Wasatch Regional Council in partnership with Mountain Land Association of Governments. And to those that were hoping to come to the WFRC offices today in person, we appreciate your willingness to pivot with us today, and apologize if that really messed up any of your plans. My name is Hugh Van Wagenen, and I am the staff lead for this committee out of WFRC. And Mayor Troy Walker, who's the chair, is unavailable today, and Mayor Joy Petro, who is on the line with us, has something she has to step out to in a little while. So has asked me to chair the meeting today. So please bear with me as we get through this. It looks like we have more folks jumping on at the moment. So if you haven't had a chance already, please put your name in your Zoom tile, your first and last name if possible, so that as we go through our roll call, Jordan can see that and also keep track for our minute purposes. But with that, Jordan's with me in the room here, and would you mind, Jordan, just reading through who's online with us today?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have myself, Jordan Chandler with WFRC, Hugh Van Wagenen, Jared Bowling, Dave Graff, Calvin Clark, Mayor Petro, Mayor Mon, Commissioner Fackrell, Councilwoman Ellen Burrell, John Nichols, Jory Johnner, Dee Dee Murray, Mercedes, Soren Simonson with the Jordan River Commission, Wendelin Knobloch with Midvale, Matt Ryan, Lauren Victor, John Nichols. I think I already said you. I apologize. My tiles are rearranging. Terry Sorey, Ivan Hooper, Mark Bradley, Becca Rolfe, Marisa Manzioni, Byron Head, Morgan Haddon, and Matt Castle, Travis Evans, Christy Dahlberg, Caitlin Marusis, Mayor Fippen, and David Mitchell. If I missed anybody, please put your name in the chat.
Thanks, Jordan. It's not easy as people join.
Yeah, they're just like shuffling around.
That's why we have you do that instead of somebody else.
Well, thanks.
Okay, with that, again, welcome. And we do have an action item regarding the minutes held April 8th, 2025. Those minutes were sent out on the previous email from Jordan, and love to entertain a motion to approve those minutes from the April 8th, 2025 ATC meeting.
This is Mayor Petro. I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Mayor.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Mayor. Any opposed? We'll do that. We'll do that way. All right, seeing none, minutes are approved. And I should also mention that Andrew Gruber and Ted Knowlton at WFRC extend their apologies for not being here today. They are at the National Association of Regional Councils Conference. So we'll get into the chair report function here. And as part of this report, a group of about 30 folks attended a New Jersey transportation safety tour at the end of, when was that? April?
Yes.
End of April?
Yeah.
Yeah, and visited Hoboken and Jersey City in New Jersey, and to experience and learn about street safety, the street safety efforts of those communities. And they have not, those communities have not experienced a traffic related death in 8 years or so. So doing some amazing work out there. And we've asked some individuals to share with us their reflections on the tour, starting with Mayor Ken Fippen of Far West. And then we'll ask Councilmember Burrell of Conrad Heights, and then John Nichols of Parametrics to speak to us about their experience. So Mayor Fippen, if you're available, I'll have to turn the time over to you. No, he was on there.
He's here, yeah.
Okay. And Mayor, if you're having trouble getting on.
Okay,
Oh.
no, I'm on. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Okay, it was just I'm on my phone and the button was not where I thought it should be.
Okay. Yeah, we hear you loud and clear.
Okay, great. Okay, so not exactly. I'm glad you let me go first. I have no idea how you want me to do this, but I can just share my experience. So, of course, I think all of us that went, we got to experience how people get around in subways, and then, of course, once you arrive at a place, they have, especially like in Hoboken and in Jersey City, there happens to be a whole bunch of city bikes, which allow people to grab those and pedal to wherever they're going to go. And I learned that I like the E ones better because, you know, hills are a lot easier. Not that they have big hills, but I'm old and my legs were tired after day one. But I was actually, it was very interesting to see all of that and see all of the pathways and all of the effects that they did to make bikes and pedestrians as safe as possible. Because they, you know, with that kind of a population, because I think Hoboken is 1 square mile and they have somewhere around, what is it, 60,000 people, something like that, you know, that live there. So that's pretty amazing that they're able to do what they do. And then they have their 20 is plenty. So that means 20 miles an hour is their top speed. I know that that's not a realistic thing, especially in some of the communities like where I'm at. You know, I have a hard time getting them down to 30. So Jersey City was very interesting. It's a little bit more spread out. I like the barricades and the separated pathways. But they've done a lot of good work, gave us a lot of ideas. We're hoping to maybe use some of those where it makes sense. Because I know that, you know, at least where we are, we're not like Ogden or Salt Lake where we have, you know, that kind of traffic, but maybe we can use some of those effects in order to slow some people down and make it safer, even in our neighborhoods. I really don't have much more than that. Hopefully that's enough.
No, thanks, Mayor. Appreciate that. And I want to just emphasize the point you made about I think there are things and design things we can do in certain parts of our cities, right, to slow people down. And it might not be 20 miles per hour everywhere in our cities, right? We get tricky to get people to hit down to 30, as you said. But perhaps there are certain locations, right, where we can focus and be very intentional in creating those spaces and design elements that help people slow down intuitively, even if the sign says something differently. So thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Like some of their recommendations, like, you know, the Mayor Hoboken and whatnot, to don't try to do it all at once. You know, try different things in different areas and figure out what works for you. And, you know, start off with the temporary things, you know, using cones or whatever. And then, you know, before you invest a lot of money in the actual infrastructure, make sure it's something that's you want and that it's going to work for you. So that was good advice.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. Okay, Councilmember Burrell. If you have something to share, I can drop my screen. I'm just giving some visuals to folks as well.
Thank you. Well, I think that Mayor Phippen has already touched on points that are very spot on. I wrote 7 takeaways that I've shared on my Facebook page and I've shared with my council colleagues. And so if you don't mind, I'll read right down through them. Before I do that, I would like to tag on what Mayor Phippen had to say in his last remark about what are, of course, called demonstration projects. By their nature, they're supposed to be temporary. And as luck would have it, I was kind of up to my eyeballs in one of those demonstration projects with our Public Works Department when I went off to the mat. And as it turned out, our idea of a demonstration project was to install candlesticks where the actual greatest danger was at a T'd intersection. I'm digressing to tell this because I think it's very relevant to this group. And I wish now that we had just done the cones, and that's because within 24 hours of putting up 14 candlesticks, a apparently a motorist who didn't think they were a good idea had removed them all and thrown them on the side of the road. And these were candlesticks that had been screwed into the ground, into the asphalt. So I'm kind of taking a note to go back to my public works department and say, look, let's ultimately in our last council meeting, I found myself convincing my council colleagues to go ahead and remove these candlesticks because they had created more danger for the pedestrians. They were slowing the motorists, but they were pushing the pedestrians into places where there was no shoulder and no sidewalk. Anyways, that's a lot of information that doesn't pertain precisely to the MAT, but I will share again with my colleagues around the extended community of the Wasatch Front that when you have tricky places, ours was not a lit intersection. It had to do with a narrow area along one of our collectors where children have to walk to bus stops. And I was extremely concerned for those children and needed the cars to slow down to the posted speed of 25 or preferably 15 miles an hour. And we had found that motorists were averaging 30, I think it was 34 miles an hour. Anyways, now to my list pertaining just to the MAT. So number one was I received keen insights on how to design and build bike and pedestrian multi-use promenades, lanes, and paths that feature safety, efficacy, affordability, and beauty. Number two was how to make safer the experience by all users at intersections using daylighting. 3, reducing residential speeds from 25 to 20 miles per hour, renovating sidewalks and curbs, and improving bike lanes, adding multi-way stops to 14 intersections, installing curb extensions to reduce crossing distances between streets, and restriping over 60 crosswalks, improved visibility to stay vehicular fatality free for the past 7 years. Number 4, Hoboken makes small safety upgrades every time it repaves and reconstructs a street, rather than putting all of its energies into transforming only the most dangerous high traffic areas. Number 5, e-biking and e-scooters, with the advent of electrified bikes and scooters, we learned the positives and negatives and how to realize best outcomes. Number 6 was picking up some funding mechanisms. And number 7 was outreach, education, and activating community and political support for the notion that human life is sacred. It is possible to achieve zero vehicular fatalities and reduce serious injury after utilizing and adopting Vision Zero.
Yeah, those are great takeaways. Thank you, Ellen. And for those that maybe didn't catch all of those, there'll be a recording of this. If you want to go back and listen to Councilmember Burrell's 7 takeaways again. And as you were speaking, maybe a question to both yourself and to Mayor Phippen. Neither of you are city engineers, planners, but you're able to sort of see design elements on this tour. And how do you find that to be beneficial as you are speaking to city staff and thinking about this? And you're not coming up with the designs yourself, but seeing them and being able to speak to that. Is that something that you find beneficial in thinking about projects in your own cities?
I do. However, I'll jump right on this, if I may, Mayor Phippen. In my 3.5 years of serving, I find that I absolutely must attribute any of my statements to a organization. I cannot forward my ideas by giving just strictly the logic behind it. And that's why it is so important and it is so valuable to have WFRC taking a lead related to safer streets. I even find that the word active transportation is not understood by most elected officials, and sometimes even other people in the city staff. And so I just can't emphasize enough that I believe that elected representatives need the tools. Preferably, I often quote the U.S. Department of Transportation, the Federal Highway Administration, the National Transportation Safety Board. While that's better than nothing, and I hate to put it that way, because of our political times, I really do find that when I say things like the WFRC, as soon as I invoke your name, if the UDOT ever puts out, elements that can help me, that's has great credibility. So I just can't tell you how important it is. I found that when I talked about Hoboken, quite frankly, the mayor immediately said into the microphone, well, Hoboken is a very dense city that has it doesn't resemble Cottonwood Heights in any way, shape, or form. We don't have that density. We're not an urban city. And so the things they do there are, do not pertain to what we would entertain. A bit like Mayor Fippin's comment about speed. I can't think of a place there might be one or two places in the whole of Cottonwood Heights that have a 20-mile-per-hour sign. And again, even where we do have 25 miles an hour, people are averaging 34. You know what that means. They're driving upwards of 40 and 50 miles an hour throughout our city, many, many motorists. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on that.
Thank you.
Okay. As far as, communicating and all that with my staff and with others having to do with transportation in general, I think it's very important. And I've been learning this, learning the lingo, learning the language, being able to communicate with, the right terms to people is very helpful. If you want to get something done, you spend less time explaining things like, active transportation, for instance. Like I said, a lot of people, well, what does that even mean? I think it's pretty easy, but not everybody agrees. But whether, I call them blinky lights, but I'm sure that there's a more correct nomenclature for those things that are supposed to like identify crosswalks and those kinds of things. But at least when I say that, people know what I'm saying. So I guess sometimes you can make up your own language and you don't have to use the lingo as long as it's clear. But in the end, we still need to be able to communicate and share our thoughts and get things done to make things safer.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. And I think that's a good time to transition to John Nichols with Parametrics, who's able to join the trip, who is an engineer. And so we'll get a perspective from John now. John, if you're ready to go.
Yeah, can everybody hear me?
Yeah, sure
right.
can.
Yeah, I thought it's such a great trip and a great experience to interact with everybody from the city, from the planners to the engineers to the elected officials, and kind of get their perspective on how they approach these projects. And one of the things I really noticed was they were such a united front with all of these projects, and they were all working together, and there was compromise from every person in that organization. It was really great to make those connections because now we have those folks as a resource. I've already reached out to the Jersey City and Hoboken folks more than once, like, hey, what's that spec you use? What's that product? What was your design assumption for a corridor like this? So having those connections with somebody who's been through it already is invaluable. And I think it makes these trips really worth it in and of itself. But kind of building on what Mayor Fippin and Councilwoman Burrell said, I was really impressed with how scrappy, I guess, these cities were. Most of their network was paint and bollards. They had these big, beautiful projects that had a lot of time, money, and effort that went into them, but the majority of their network was pretty simple and pretty cheap. And they would start with the demonstration projects and go from, cones, laying something out over a weekend, to the quick build, and then eventually the hardening, as they called it, where they're really putting in new curb and new infrastructure. And almost every facility we went through, every project we looked at, they said, yeah, that was a demonstration project at one point. We did that 6 years ago, and then we did a quick build, and now we're planning on doing the full construction. So getting something down and getting it out there is really important. And not one of the projects they showed us had full 100% public support when they proposed it, but almost every project they showed us, they said, yeah, ridership has increased, X%, and public support has kind of flipped a little bit, where maybe the majority of people are for this now instead of against it. So I thought that was interesting. One of the things, you always hear with these projects taking away parking and during construction and things like that, can the businesses, certain businesses can be apprehensive towards that. And the bike organizations that we got to interact with a lot there, they said they made a point of patroning those businesses during construction and showing like, hey, we're still going to support you guys and show you that this can work, even though change is scary and things are going to be a little bit different. So I could probably ramble for 20 more minutes, but I'll cap it there. So
Thanks, John. Again, appreciate you being able to join and your perspective.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
Mayor Walker just had a couple of thoughts he wanted me to share. And one of the impressions that he had immediately was there are a lot of cars in those dense cities, and there's a lot of traffic. And so there's a way to still handle street safety, even with people driving, right? It doesn't have to be that nobody drives in these cities. It's just we make these places safer for them. And he was also impressed that with all the quick build stuff that's been mentioned and demonstration projects, but also felt that we were doing a pretty good job here in Utah in our cities and the rate of progress that we're making. And so he was really encouraged by that as well. Didn't feel like we were so far behind or not making good strides here. And also he hates the subway. Wants to make sure everybody knows that. Not a subway guy. So yeah, overall, really successful trip and different takeaways for different people. My only regret is that because we did have so many attendees, it was hard to chat with everybody and didn't have a necessarily great time connecting because there are so many of us and we were split up into different groups. But for those that are interested in attending a future tour like this, we do have sort of a tentative plan in place to visit the Boulder Fort Collins area in the spring of 2026. No firm dates yet, but again, probably that late April, early May timeframe is what we're shooting for. And when I say we, it's ourselves here at WFRC and also Bike Utah who help put these on with a lot of help from people on the ground. So special thanks to everybody in Hoboken and Jersey City, and then also our staff here, Jordan, and others that help make these happen.
Hey, Hugh, can I have one last final thought to share?
Absolutely, please.
Okay. As much as I enjoyed the tours, where we were all there together and going through the cities and all that, I thought it was also a good experience there was a handful of us that just kind of took off on our own. And I say that because when you're doing a tour, they had people that were stopping traffic and all that, which is, not probably how things happen every day. But when, a handful of us went for a ride, like over towards the Statue of Liberty, it's like we were experiencing it as, it was meant to be experienced. There's nobody helping us across the streets. There's nobody stopping traffic. And that was actually, to me, a better feel for how that actually works. And it works very good as far as I could tell. So.
All right. I appreciate you bringing that up, Mayor Phippen. That sort of what we call unstructured time is something we try and build into our agendas for that very purpose that you stated, right? Is to sort of get out and get a feel for what it's like without being in a big group. So appreciate you mentioning that. Thank you. Okay. One we'll move on then, unless anybody has a specific question for Mayor Phippen, Councilmember Burrell, or John. Anything in the chat, Jordan, that you're seeing? Okay. All right. Well, then we'll move on to item number 2B, regarding the Golden Spoke bike ride that happened on May 10th. As part of that celebration, see if I can get over here real quick. Mayor Walker did hold a mayor's bike ride in Draper. Oops, sorry, juggling screens here. I just wanted to share this. And so this was part of the Golden Spoke overall number of events, but also sort of isolated on its own, and that it didn't follow the Golden Spoke route. But there was a kickoff point, and we have Soren Simonson with the Jordan River Commission who will speak more to the overall event in just a moment. But Mayor Walker's bike ride in Draper started at 11, which was also a kickoff point for the overall Golden Spoke ride. And they did this nice big near loop there in Draper. Had a good turnout, bunch of attendees. And so it was a nice event that Draper did as sort of a spin-off, I guess, of the larger Golden Spoke ride. Wanted me to share that with you all, and they had a good time there. But with that, I'll just give some more time now to Soren Simonson, who's joining us to talk about the overall Golden Spoke ride. And the Jordan River Commission has been a major partner in the ride event in recent years, but especially this last year really took the bull by the horns and made it quite an impressive event this last May. So Soren, if you're ready, please.
Yeah, thank you, Hugh, for the invitation to come and join you today. Can you see my screen okay?
Yes, we can.
I'll try and advance through this. So I am the executive director of the Jordan River Commission. I see a lot of names on here of folks that I know and have worked with over the years, and a few that I don't know so well. So it's good to be with you. I look forward to getting to know you better. Feel free to ask any questions along the way. I'm just going to give a brief recap of the Golden Spoke event. This was our 8th annual event, and for a reminder for those that are not familiar with it, the first Golden Spoke event was held in June of 2018 and celebrated the completion of the Jordan River Trail with the bridge that extends from about 200 south to North Temple through the Rocky Mountain Power Plant. And this network of trails that was also celebrated connects 8 trails and over 115 miles of trail network from Provo to Ogden. If you look at all of the other connecting trails, east-west trails and things like that, we estimate there's about 175 to 180 miles of connected trails along this main spine of 8 trails from Provo to Ogden. This is a photo of that very first event in June of 2018. Governor Herbert at the time came and spoke and talked about the expansion of trail networks across the Wasatch Front and around the state. And it was a great opportunity to highlight amazing work that's been going on by so many partners all up and down the Wasatch Front to create this network. Our 2025 ride was the 8th annual event. And the events have, for the most part, followed a very similar route. The 8 trails, and I'll try and name them all, from Ogden to Provo. You have the Ogden River Trail, the Weber River Trail, the Far West Community Trail, the Denver and Rio Grande Rail Trail, the Legacy Parkway Trail, excuse me, the Jordan River Trail, the Murdoch Canal Trail, and the Provo River Parkway Trail. There are, of course, many others that connect to those, but that's the main spine. This particular ride, typically what we've done in the past is we've had a ride that will start in Provo and Ogden and meet somewhere in the middle. That first ride met at the Fisher Mansion and the what's now called the Archuleta Bridge. We've had rides end at Tracy Avery's Nature Center. We've had rides end at Farmington City and other locations. And so this was a kind of a unique opportunity to do a century ride trail. We had a full 100-mile ride from Ogden to Provo. We started early in the morning, about 6 a.m. up in Ogden. We had an end of ride event from about 2 to 5 p.m. in Provo at the new Skipper Bay trailhead that's part of the Provo River Delta project. And we had a number of rest stops and alternate ride starts along the way. Our main ride began at the Tracy Aviary Nature Center at Peokwai, which is in South Salt Lake, about 33rd South. That was approximately a 50-mile ride. We had the ride that Hugh mentioned, that Mayor Walker led. Some people peeled off and did the Draper ride. Many people continued on all the way to Provo, about a 35-mile ride. We had a ride start in Lehigh City of about 25 miles, a ride start in Palisade Park in Orem of about 10 miles. And then we had some short rides for beginners of less than 2 miles in South Salt Lake at the main start event, and at the Skipper Bay Trailhead at the Provo River Delta in Provo. This is just an overview of the map of the ride. Began at High Adventure Park in Ogden. We had a rest stop at Legacy Park in North Salt Lake, and I mentioned these other ride starts in South Salt Lake, Draper, Bull River Trailhead in Lehigh, Palisade Park in Orem, and Skipper Bay. One of the things that we wanted to highlight this year is the incredible work that's happening. You know, all of these trails are amazing in their own right, but many of them are closely connected with some really amazing green spaces, natural lands, restoration that's happening. We highlighted particularly the Ogden and Weber River parkways up in Weber County. We highlighted the Jordan River Parkway Trail and some incredible restoration work happening along that river system. And then, of course, the Provo River Delta project, which was a major restoration project where the Provo River meets Utah Lake. And so in addition to highlighting the trail network, we also really took advantage of the opportunity to highlight the incredible natural land and restoration work happening around these really significant natural resources across the Wasatch Front as well. We had a great opportunity with a photographer, thanks to a grant that we received through the Jordan River Foundation and Enbridge Gas Company. We had a photographer and videographer, Sage Nightingale, who joined us for this event and captured some really exquisite photos. I'll share a few of those with you along the way. This was up where kind of the beginning of the Denver and Rio Grande Rail Trail up in the Roy area. A couple of photos from the ride start at the Nature Center at Peokwai and South Salt Lake. We had people of all ages and abilities. This was the rest stop and ride start down in Draper at Rotary Park. Beautiful ride along the way on the Jordan River Trail. You can see a rider and Todd Munger, one of our volunteers who supported the Lehigh rest stop in Lehigh. We had a bike rodeo at the end of ride event down in Provo. And so we really had something for every age and ability. And it was a lot of fun to just see so many families and individuals participating. Thanks to generous sponsors, we were able to provide food vouchers. We had 3 food trucks at the end at the Skipper Bay Trailhead, different varieties of foods for every taste. And we were really grateful to have that support, and we could provide some nourishment and re-energize our riders at the end of ride. Just a huge shout out to many of those that supported this. We had, I think, over 15 individuals as part of our organizing committee. Many of them are pictured here. Among our commission staff, you can see Hugh there in the middle, John Bunderson from Provo City Parks, who both played really big roles with our organizing. I'll just recap and kind of wrap up with some event data. We had capped our event this year at 600 registrants. I think the most registrants we've had at a past event was around 400, maybe 450. And so we were just really delighted to see so many people sign up. Of course, not everybody shows up. Sometimes with it being a free event, people have other things going on. We estimated, based on the food vouchers we gave away at the end and estimates we captured at different points along the way, about 450 participants, which is our largest participation ever in this annual event. As I mentioned, we had people of all ages and abilities, which was really incredible. Over 20 volunteers, a huge shout out to some of our supporters that provided volunteers to help staff the event, to make sure people had food and water and directions and whatever support they needed. We had a number of people riding along the way to provide support on the trails. We had over 15 members of our organizing committee. We provided over 200 estimated free transit passes to people that participated. Some of those were distributed in advance of the event. Many of them were handed out along the way. And we love that UTA is a really great partner in this event. And it also gives us a chance to highlight all the really great transit connections, particularly through the Frontrunner UTA system. We raised about $13,000 in revenue through partners and sponsors, and we're really grateful for that. It allowed us to do a lot more this year than we've been able to do in past years. We had 26 partner organizations and sponsors. And interestingly, we had, I know Hugh mentioned Mayor Walker, we estimate about 10 elected officials participating in start and end of ride events. A number of them rode and several of them helped with support at our rest stops. In addition to Mayor Walker, Mayor Burton from West Jordan rode all the way to the end in Provo. And Mayor Mark Johnson from Lehigh also started in Lehigh and rode to the end in Provo. We had Mayor Silvestrini from Mill Creek and Councilmember Don Shelton from South Jordan, who helped kick off our event in South Salt Lake and Mill Creek, and Mayor Michelle Kafusi in Provo, who came and joined us at the end of ride event and welcomed riders as they completed the ride. So just in closing, want to just do a really great shout out to all of our event supporters. You can see them listed on the screen here. Many of them are back who have supported us in the past, including our key supporters, Move Utah, Wasatch Front Regional Council, Mountainland Association of Governments, the Jordan River Commission, which are kind of key organizers, but so many others, Lehigh City, Draper City, North Salt Lake, Orem, Provo, Utah County, just so many great supporters of this event. We had a couple of service projects that were organized. The Jordan River Commission organized a cleanup around the starting point in South Salt Lake, and the Utah Lake Commission organized a cleanup around the Skipper Bay trailhead. So we got people out volunteering and making the areas a little more beautiful for our participants in the event as well. If you are interested in more information, you can find us at goldenspoke.net. The permanent website is now hosted by the Jordan River Commission, and this link will take you directly to the website. You can find information for this year's event, and we're hoping to soon have some kind of recap data that we'll put up there. And then starting probably in about January or so, we'll have information for next year's Golden Spoke event. We've kind of landed on the second Saturday in May as our annual event date during Bike Month. And we'll probably start planning next year's event sometime mid-fall. So if any of you are interested in getting involved or helping to share and promote this incredible experience and activity, celebrating this incredible bike network and highlighting Bike Month, please join us and help connect us with others that can support this effort in the future. With that, thank you, Hugh, for the opportunity to come and share this information, and I'll turn it back to you and others to continue.
Thank you very much, Soren. A great recap, and it really was a great event this last go around, and looking forward to the next one. Obviously, a lot of folks aren't able to join on the day of and look at that. So if you've been out exploring the Golden Spoke Network, I'll just share a little map in the chat, something that Bert Granberg in our office put together called Color the Golden Spoke Map. It's kind of a fun way to track which portions you may ride, maybe all at once, but more than likely not, and places for you to explore and again, thanks to UCA, you can use that front runner in the transit system to get to different points and explore the system as we move along. So is there anything for Soren? Anybody have a question about this event or other Golden Spoke events at all?
Let's see, I should have raised my hand. This is Ellen Burrell. But I only learned recently, Soren, that you have an idea for how the school districts, and I don't know, I don't realize it's not on the agenda, but perhaps I'd either love to talk to you offline unless you have a comment, but one of my strong interests is in reaching K through 12 youth along the Wasatch Front to help them to appreciate the opportunities they have. And other than some of the probably obvious things like perhaps getting the school districts to ring the bell and better publicize the Golden Spoke and other marvelous opportunities that already exist, do you have any comment on how active transportation can better be introduced to our K through 12 residents?
Well, it's kind of a personal passion of mine, so I'm glad that maybe the word's out. I've been a longtime advocate of connecting kids and communities with bicycle infrastructure. Now, we've done an incredible job of building out this infrastructure. We don't always have the tools and resources to educate people. And one of the things that we're working on right now with a couple of initiatives of the Jordan River Commission, working with the 7 school districts that we touch across the Jordan River geographic area, is, every high school student learns how to drive a car. My 3 kids, 2 of my kids have been through that. My youngest is just starting her sophomore year and not quite that age yet. But one of the things that we're exploring with some grant programs that we've received is how we can develop curriculum so that elementary schools students have as part of their curriculum learning how to ride a bike, and junior high school students learn how to use public transit. Those are age-appropriate transportation systems, and it would be great to just help expand the knowledge and the comfort level for people to be able to explore and use all of the transportation systems, including those active transportation systems at their disposal. So we're in the process of, we're just kind of launching this initiative right now and trying to develop curriculum and doing some pilot work. But if others are interested in participating with us outside of the Jordan River area, we'd certainly love to explore that further. I dropped my information in my contact information in the chat, and you're welcome to email me and maybe find a way to participate with us as part of that initiative. But that's our goal, is to just help people understand, if cycling's the easiest and the closest way, and you don't have to rely on mom or dad or a friend or neighbor to drive you around, it's really great for people to learn how independent they can be, even at a pretty young age, by having access to the great transportation systems that are being developed in our communities.
I mean, I really appreciate that. It's a great update, and I will contact you. I'd be interested to know what school districts or, who you are finding any traction with related to developing curriculum. One of the challenges is not so much, I think the children want probably to do these things. It's the parents who perceive too much danger. It's the closest that we've even taken any step is a bike bus that was organized by some of the active transportation. We have a subcommittee on active transportation out of our Parks, Trails, and Open Space Committee. But when I go and talk with the parents, there's about a group of about 32, including parents and children, that go to Butler Elementary School at every Friday at 8 a.m. They group up about a 3/4 mile from the elementary school and take a certain route. But it's amazing how really almost, I won't say paralyzed with fear, but the parents, they will not allow their child to go even blocks from their own house. So the safe routes to school concept that I thought was the avenue to advancing, working with parents and students to encourage them to take safe routes to school. But I've come to learn that while they exist on paper to some degree, they're not being advanced through the community councils in each school, nor by the school district, nor by UDOT, and they're not. Anyways, it's so problematic. So I'm finding that your comment about at least in Cottonwood Heights, and maybe I can say the Canyon School District, because my children attend in Sandy, the city of Sandy, and it's a deep-seated paradigm of our times that parents are paralyzed with fear, perhaps
Sure.
they drive their own car too fast and all. And so again, I think this is such a paramount topic to advancing active transportation that I'm just,
Council member, I think I'm really glad this connection's been made. And maybe,
Yeah.
Soren, this is something we can explore with you on a future agenda item to dive a little bit deeper
Sure,
into.
I'd love
Right.
to do that. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it. We're going to move on. That was a long chair's report. We fit under there. Now we're going to jump into public comment. And if there's anybody online who would like to take a minute and share a public comment, if so, please state your name as you do so. But we'll just look for you folks right now.
Seeing anybody?
Hi, this is Dave Eltis. I just wanted to bring up some of the additional consequences of SB 195 that are being felt in Salt Lake City currently. One is the UDOT has backed off of allowing the bike trail, the cycle track that they're building on 300 West between 9th South and Pioneer Park. And the original plan was to allow the cycle track to go from 4th South, to go all the way to 3rd South, which would connect with the protected bike lane. And apparently there's a noisy real estate developer who has intimidated UDOT into rescinding the permission to build the cycle track by Pioneer Park because they want to build parking there or keep parking there. And this skittishness of UDOT is a direct consequence of SB 195. There were reports in the media, not with Cycling Utah, but I think Building Salt Lake, where John Gleason, who's the spokesperson for UDOT, was basically saying things that weren't true, that SB 195 would force public comment about building the cycle track there, when in fact the law had actually grandfathered that entire project in. Salt Lake City is not looking at fixing the bike lane on 2200 West, which in one spot is 1.5 feet wide, because they're scared about the consequences of SB 195. And these two things are not even within the scope of the law, but they have intimidated the city, they've intimidated UDOT, and pretty much every single mayor and public official on this, at this WFRC meeting needs to be reaching out to Wayne Harper, Stuart Adams, Mike Schultz, Kate Christopherson, and letting them know that this is an absolute disaster, not only for Salt Lake City, but for regional active transportation. It's just this kind of stuff where you have, the people that are involved. There's actually a report put out by 2 University of Utah professors that is full of nonsense. There's an air quality professor and a business school professor that are claiming that basically speed bumps and such increase driver agitation and decrease air quality. So I would just implore you as public officials of all types to reach out to those particular legislators and let them know that this is something that they need to look at repealing in the next session, because, you know, real estate developers and, you know, people who want cars first shouldn't have this sort of power to tell Salt Lake City what to do. And, you know, be careful, because this may be coming for your city too. This may become a statewide thing. So that's what my comment is. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Iltis. Anybody else for public comment?
Becca has her hand raised.
Becca, your hand is up. Is this in response to Mr. Iltis, or is this a separate
I would
comment?
like to add a point of fact to, yes, if that's possible.
Yeah, if it's brief, that's great.
Yeah, point of fact, SB 195 is not related to the resurfacing challenges on 2200 West and making design changes. It's purely the fact that it's a slurry seal. And we have an agreement with our streets division that we don't make striping changes with slurry seals because it wears through too quickly. So I don't see an SB 195 connection in that particular regard. Thanks.
Thanks for the clarification. Okay, if there's nobody else for public comment, we'll move on to item 4. And Mayor Petro, if you're with us still, I know you got to jump off in just a minute, but
Yes, I'm still here.
all right. So this has to do with the Case Creek US 89 underpass ribbon cutting. You want to just take a moment and tell us about that?
Sure. First off, I got to start out by saying thanks to the Wasatch Front Regional Council and UDOT and this, everybody involved with helping funding this project. I mean, it was a big ask, and yet when you talk about wanting to plan for your future, sometimes you have to take advantage of the opportunities that are before you. And the reason why I'm saying that is because had Highway 89 not been on the docket to be able to widen it and improve that whole corridor there, we wouldn't have been able to put in this underpass. But it was a joint effort, and I can't thank everyone enough, because I mean, this is, you talk about a safe way to get around. It allows our folks to go underneath Highway 89 from a frontage road on the west to the east side on Valley View Drive. But again, it's kind of like the whole Holcomb story. I mean, you just have to take parts of it and work on it. This is a big portion of it, but it's not complete. Eventually, this trail will be our east-west corridor connection, which will down and connect with the grants that folks from North South into Salt Lake, Ogden. But more importantly, it's involving that all aspects of active transportation as far as connecting through our city. It's not 100% complete yet. We've got several other properties to acquire in order to accomplish this goal, but eventually it will go from the mountains to the lake. And like I said, you've got the intersection of a lot of different corridors to be able to get folks around. So I'm excited for this. I appreciate you coming out and helping us with this ribbon cutting. The weather was a bit cold, but you know, we had a fairly good turnout, and the best part about it was the comments of folks afterwards, and in particular, a very avid bike rider who has just said that this has changed his game 100%, and his feeling safe in getting around the city, or his particular route that he seems to take for his active bike riding. So with that, I just got to say thank you, everyone. And anytime projects come up within your cities, just, you know, kind of be forward thinking and take advantage of the opportunity, because, you know, it might be well down the road before you be able to connect it, but it's a start. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Yeah, a big deal to have this open to the public, and got a picture up here of the tunnel and of you on your trike, leading a little bike ride through it afterwards. And like you said, it's part of a bigger puzzle. We're showing the map on the screen here of, you know, how everything connects through the city eventually. So yeah, again, congratulations on that. And, you know, if the rest of you that are on the call, if there are things happening in your community, ribbon cuttings or project completions you'd like to share or that you're proud of, please let us know. We know this takes a lot of work from a lot of different people. And, you know, want you to be able to share that with others, not only so it can be used, but just so we can all pat you on the back and take part in that with you. Thank you, Mayor Petro.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, we'll jump to item number 5 regarding parks and growth. And we have with us Mayor Mon from Syracuse, who's going to sort of paint a picture for us of what's happening in his community. And then also Cameron Deal, the Executive Director of the Utah League of Cities and Towns, to follow up after Mayor Mon, talk to us about some resources that can help with developing parks. But Mayor Mon, if you're with us, please, you have the floor.
Thank you. And I'll just tell you really quickly how this came about. We were talking about in the different transportation projects, some of the needs that are part of, you know, growing a city. And so what we did is we talked about where the needs really come from and what's going on. And so I really wanted to talk about parks and quality of life just for a minute, because I think that our active transportation and things that go around these areas are trying to connect the opportunity for people to enjoy what we have. Certainly when we talk about Utah, we've got all kinds of accolades, and I've pulled these from just recent magazines and articles. But Utah is known for its opportunity to have a high quality of life. It's good for business. It's good for you know, transportation. It's good for job opportunities, and it's just a wonderful place to live. A couple of years ago, the state started promoting Utah as Life Elevated with their slogan, and it's all about the outdoor opportunities and the sports and the way that we enjoy the quality of life here. And that's what's attracting business throughout the state. So we wanted to talk a little bit about what happens in uh, our cities. Our cities, when we talk about quality of life, it really centers around parks. That's where the events happen. That's where things seem to take place more than anything. And that's going to be where your recreation is, your big events citywide, and your health and fitness link to all of this. And that's why we do a lot with active trails and making sure that people get connected to the places where they can enjoy Utah. So maintaining this quality of life seems to have a little bit of a struggle right now, because as we grow Utah, we have some challenges that kind of struggle to coexist. And I want to talk about that and a possible solution that we've been talking about around the state. I spent a lot of time over the last year and a half talking to other cities, not just in my own area, but down at the league meetings, and really getting to know people and finding out where some of these pain points are. Utah has been promoting that we have this housing crisis, and the governor has been really pushing that we've got to raise the ability to get some quality and affordable housing out there for our newer generations. But that puts some emphasis and stress on our infrastructure demands and creates some growing pains. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk a little bit about Syracuse and how that applies to us, knowing that us as an example is very similar to what other cities are going through around the state. So being part of the solution, you know, we have to take back and understand where the focus is coming from. The state is pushing to solve this problem by reducing critical funds like impact fees. There's been several bills come out and say, oh, impact fees are what's driving up the cost of housing, or they're loosening regulations and our ability to zone and try to protect the way that things go. Or, you know, they're even eliminating our ability to keep up with taxes with things that eliminate the inflationary costs that are real and we face. What that does to cities, impact fees no longer take care of the impacts. I don't know how many people I've talked to. It's just impact fees are estimated to take barely 60% of the cost of those impacts anymore. And that leaves a big deficit for cities to pick up. And we have to take care of this infrastructure because it's necessary to serve our citizens. So rather than regulating this away And I also continue to call this out for years, but truth in taxation just has no inflationary component in it and makes it really hard on our citizens. In Syracuse, we're a real growing community. We've experienced 21.3 percent growth just in the last 4 years. That's a lot. KSL reported just a couple of weeks ago that we're the 6th fastest growing city in the state this year. And a part of this is that we've been growing faster in Davis County. We have been, of the last 7 or the last since 2016, we have been the #1 growing city every year, except for in 2020 when Layton actually built 7 more dwellings than we did. And for a city that's twice our size already, I think that says we're doing a lot to help with the housing crisis. We have done at least 100 more units almost every year. So the year that we fell short by 7, and I don't mean fell short because we are not in a competition to see who can grow the fastest. We are certainly trying to figure out how we can maintain a quality of life. But you can see kind of the profile of where we are as Syracuse. And so what we're doing when we're serving these new dwellings, what is it that we're really looking for? We're looking for something that serves younger families, something that serves for starter homes, something that helps bring out things. But what we have, I mean, as a profile of our community, we have the youngest median age in the county at 28.7. And if you look at the other stats I've got here, the US median is 39.2. Syracuse has the highest number of people per household in Davis County. And I'm using Davis County stats because that's what I have available to me. I don't have statewide stats. But then Syracuse has also got pretty much the youngest community out there, with 37% of our population is under the age of 18. Younger people, it just increases that need that we have to have some kind of space out there to take care of people. But as you grow really fast with this large growth rate, it puts a strain on your infrastructure. I've listed 4 projects here that we've had to take care of just in the last couple of years that have put an infrastructure strain on the city. And that's where all our money is going, is to make sure that critical services like water and fire station and all of these things are taken care of. So open spaces, parks, and recreation programming, just to give you a picture of where we were, what brought everybody as an appeal to come to Syracuse is that up until 2019, we had 5.1 acres of developed parkland per 1,000 people. But you can see over here, post-growth spurt, that's reduced to 3.8 acres per 1,000 people. And I've got a slide later that shows just kind of where that fits in the national average. But while we have the huge involvement, pre-growth spurt, we were able to keep the outside programs with some, your comp leagues and your regional activities and things. We could help host those, but now we barely can even fit the teams and the demand of the kids that we have here, and we're not able to serve all those other opportunities. So the need for park space just increases the more dense things get and the more people that are out there. We've got the longest commute in Davis County at 28.8 minutes. And I know that when I was a commuter, I was going more than an hour each way. So that's a modest commute, but as an average, considering how many people are working from home, that is kind of high. We've had requests from people that come in and say, hey, we want to start hockey here. We want to start rugby here. We want to start lacrosse leagues, disc golf, and a swim league. We can't afford any of that. And we're still developing as much as we can. And we just need more space. But housing affordability is limiting our ability to keep up with these design builds. Our current level of service, we have the 2nd highest enrollment in the county in youth sports. We are the biggest junior jazz program for a city in our classification. And, we're regularly introducing new sports. We've done in the last couple of years pickleball leagues, futsal, flag football. And this year we started street hockey because we had no more fields. We had to find something that we could do that didn't require a field. and yet still help meet the demand of some of the people out there that are trying to grow sports. So the key element that I'm talking about, where we fell short, was our ability to collect the tax over time because of the growth rate. We all have communities master plans. In our city, we update our master plan every 5 years. We have gone well beyond that. We have 5-year plans for parks. We have 5-year plans for roads. We have 5-year plans for every utility as far as a maintenance schedule updated and volume capacity management. We have 10-year plans for capital improvements and also for our vehicle schedule, because those are huge costs that have to go about being served. So there's some tax challenges that all of us as cities face. First of all, I mentioned truth in taxation. It just doesn't allow for any inflation. It's really difficult. Sales tax adjusts when product prices adjust. So that's a way that other taxing forms take care of this. The state has a set tax rate. Why not cities? All of these are challenges that we have. Property tax is a challenge because it depends on a full year of assessment value to get that full value. If you get assessed in January, you pay in November, and then maybe you fall somewhere in between there. It's the next year before you even get the full tax amount from these new developments. So we're always behind the ball. And here's some more closer examples of how these tax situations create a struggle for cities. I particularly point out the fact that we just went through expanding to a second fire station because of all the growth. And seriously, all of the calls that we get, our call volume has near doubled in the last 4 years. And yet it's not the fire station that's the biggest cost, and that it's a huge expense for equipment. The real big cost is that just the bond payment on our new fire station could staff the whole station. And yet we don't have these kind of funds because we didn't have years to collect the things that, as we planned for, the taxes that we planned for. So going on, 2 years ago, I announced this plan of how, this is Mayor Mon's plan that I announced to the city of how we were going to avoid increasing taxes, because that's a pain point for everybody. It was a 4-pillared approach. The first was we were going to actively recruit more business. More business diverts personal tax, and it gives us another outlet. Find more grants and alternative funding. That's something that we all continue to work on, trying to find ways to pay for things that taxes just don't seem to cover. And unfortunately, my third pillar here was we have to slow the grow. We have to not be the fastest growing community anymore. I've been published on this several times, and we've talked about this, but that kind of counters the state plan of we need to solve this housing crisis. I could keep doing more, but I can't afford to tax my people out of the city. And the last pillar of my plan was we were going to have to look at AI and automation in order to bring down some of our costs. So how are we doing on these plans? Well, for Syracuse as a city, I have, since 2021, when I took office, 109 new brick and mortar businesses here in Syracuse. And that's a lot. And we're really excited about that. We have several more on the way. I have 262 new home-based licenses that came about since that same period of time. All these businesses help contribute, and it's an active plan to try and get what we need to do done. I started by, on day one, I said to my CED department, I need a list of every viable business property that we have in the city. So as soon as I talk to somebody, I know where to point them. I know who to put them in contact with. I know how to get some things done. And that's why we have the amount of new businesses that we have. On my second pillar, what we did is I said to every department head, I need you to report every year during budget discussions what grants you chased and what need they serve. And I expect everybody to be out there recruiting and looking for grants to apply to every aspect that we can find. Many grants require matching funding, and that matching funding means that we really could only go for grants of projects we already had to take on that were going to be necessities. And over the last several years, we've captured over $39 million in grants, but all of that has been infrastructure. None of that has been for parks. We've actually been turned down for every single park grant that we have applied for. And that's really difficult. So what we found, and the reason why I had my third pillar, is the data told me over the first 2 years, anytime we got over 800 new dwellings in a year, we were forced to face a tax increase. And this is kind of a story of when you grow more than you can handle. We've been growing at 400 units for 2 decades. But when I started to get past that threshold of 800, and we have for the last 4 years, all of a sudden the infrastructure has come forward faster than we could pay for those abilities or those new features and needs. The problem that I have is we have a huge backlog. Previous councils entitled all kinds of units that we can't, slow down. I've got 1,496 units entitled that don't even have permits yet already in my city. And I've got 1,009 active permits today. So one of the ways that we're attacking this is we've tried to say to new developments, hopefully we can get some kind of phased building approach. And I don't mean phased building like this month you do phase 1 through 6 and the next month you do phase 6 through 8. We need people who are going to commit to spread it out over multiple years. And we've done that through development agreements only because of the pain that we're getting of not being able to keep up the quality of life. And on my fourth pillar, just finding ways to deal with our finances, we have done a lot of experiment with drones and with automated reporting. If you were at the ULCT conference in April, you probably saw the robot snow blowers and the robot lawnmowers, and we have tried those out and employed them, and they don't take in sick days. They don't take in, they never call in sick. They never shut down. It's an awesome thing to work with some of those things, and it saves you having to hire more staff. We're not looking to let anybody go. We're just redeploying those resources. So I wanted to talk again, just more capital projects that we are using every last dollar we have available just to maintain what we have. We've been forced to take on a new secondary reservoir. And I'll tell you really just a quick mention on this. If UDOT ever says they need a place to store dirt for a future road project, this became our opportunity. We said, absolutely yes, you can store all the dirt that you want here on some of our land. And then if you wouldn't mind, just keep going when you're done digging that up. And they dug us, another 20-foot reservoir for free, which is wonderful because they needed the dirt, we needed the reservoir. But we've had to take on a park maintenance facility. Our park vehicles that we were trying to take care of were like fitting into a shed like Tetris. We grew so much, our park spaces grew, things we had to figure out how to do this, and it becomes an expense that isn't planned for. On my last project here, we had a group come in and say, we'd like to build a BMX park. All we had to do is provide the land, so it did create an expense, but they went out and raised the capital to build the facility themselves. And we're grateful that we found alternative ways to deal with the growing expenses that come with parks. I want to just tell you kind of the tax picture that we've been faced with in our city. Young families are struggle with to keep up. They have a high demand for the quality of life, but they have a low tolerance for tax increases. And this is what the history of tax increases in Syracuse over the last several years. These ones in red were 100% first responders driven. The wage increases for police and fire and the need to add police and fire, our tax increases that people are really struggling to keep up with have been 100% there, which doesn't leave me any room to try and work on the deficit that we have in parks. Just to kind of explain that deficit, again, I mentioned that we had 5.6 acres as our goal, but we're actually only at 3.8. And that just keeps going down because I don't have the money to continue to build. We have 60, we need 67 acres in order just to meet our master plan goal. We currently have 92 acres we can't afford to develop. I have a 50-acre park that has been on the books for 9 years, completely planned. We own the land, ready to go. And yet I can't gather impact fees or money in it from any source to put to this. We are just launching phase 1, which is only 10 acres of that park. And that is from 9 years of what's been collected. And that's all we can afford because of the inflationary costs that escalate in parks. So what levers do the city have, or does a city have, in order to go out and support this kind of park growth? Well, the first one is that we can go find more grants, and we have applied for everything, state, federal, everything we can find, generous foundations, and yet it seems to be the most elusive money is to go to parks. We could increase taxes, and I showed you that we did that, and that's kind of wearing thin on our people, on our citizens. We can slow down growth, but that counters the state's need for us to grow even faster. And the last one is we can just reduce the cost, and that reduces our ability to serve our citizens. But I have a solution, and this is where I'm coming to looking for some support. The solution that I'm proposing is that for the last several years, the state has been announcing they have a surplus and that they're going to reduce taxes. That's wonderful. But cities are suffering. We don't have the tax resources to take care of the things that we're supposed to take care of. So I'm proposing that we create a similar fund to the fund that is managed by this group for trails and trail expansion for active transportation. And we do this for growing city parks. And if you want to tie that to the housing, then I would say that's great. Give preference in this kind of a fund to those who have been contributing to solving this housing crisis. Make it a carrot rather than a stick. The legislature has continued to try and find ways to regulate prices down. I'm suggesting use some of that surplus that they've been announcing for a couple of years and put it towards a carrot for those cities who will continue to help solve this problem and take on these challenges, because it is a tax impact to all of us. And I would also suggest emphasize shovel-ready projects. If that's part of your criteria, you'll get things done quickly, it'll be high visibility, and it will solve a lot of problems for cities. This is not a case of NIMBYism. Obviously, with the builds that we've had, we have grown 10,000 residents in 4 years. With all of that, we are not saying you can't come here. We are just saying, help us continue to help you. And we've been looking for ways that we can find to keep up the quality of life. We can't just keep bonding or going into debt, because it's not about, is there a debt limit? It's about responsibility, because every time you take on a new bond, you've got to, you end up with a higher interest rate, and it just is a burden. When I started on the council 10 years ago, we had 6 bonds. It was paralyzing, and we really struggled, but with some creative work, we got out of most of them, but we've had to take on new ones because of this really quick build that has brought the demand forward for things like water towers, fire stations, reservoirs, all of that stuff. We lost years of being able to collect money to put towards those projects that we had planned out several years from now, but the rapid increase of population has brought the demand forward. So I'm asking that maybe we reach out to the state collectively and say, help us design a program that helps take some of these burdens off. Studies have shown, including 2 right here in Utah, that sports fields contribute to your economy. They help improve the quality of life, and that's what attracted people to Utah. So again, the solution would be carrot, not stick. Come back and help reward those who have been actively producing a solution by providing this new housing for people, and notice where solutions are happening, and notice what we can do to continue to help. And I would say, go ahead, make us your poster child. Help make our regional park that we've been struggling to find the way that we say, here's how, cities in Utah who are working to try and solve this crisis get some support for all of the extra infrastructure demands that are placed upon you. And I guess one of my final proposals is we've got to get Utah to look a little bit at cities that are not along I-15. Almost all of the funding seems to go to cities who are right on the I-15 corridor, but there's a lot of growth happening east and west of I-15. And on the Wasatch Front, we'd like to see some of that help. So that was a really quick and heavy on data presentation of our situation. But again, the solution, we would ask that Wasatch Regional Front and all of the areas and related groups maybe work with us to see if we can't get something established in the future that will help us take care of these deficit needs so that we can continue to help and support the housing situation in Utah.
Wow, thanks, Mayor. I mean, that was, a quick but pretty well painted picture of the acute pressures that your city has faced over the years, and really hits that home. And I'm sure other communities are facing similar, but boy, that 10,000 new residents in the last 4 years, that's pretty amazing, and understanding the pressures that you're feeling. Cameron, are you online? And there was obviously a lot there from Mayor Mon. You're obviously heavily involved with the legislature and all things cities and towns in the state. Do you have any comments or thoughts based on what the mayor presented?
Perfect. Thanks, you, and thanks, Mayor. That was an excellent presentation. And you mentioned that you're not alone, and I can second that. We have similar data sets from Harriman, from Saratoga Springs, from cities in southern Utah, and from cities all over the place, Nibley, other fast-growing communities across the state who are struggling to keep up with park space. And interestingly, some of the data we've collected around park space show that most cities in the state are below that national average. And it doesn't matter if you're an old city or a new city, most cities are below that national average. So the good news is that the type of solution that Mayor Mon was proposing already does exist. And what I think is worthy of discussion going forward, Mayor, and with others, is how do we turbocharge the program that the league got funded for the first time last year. I mean, Hugh, how much time do I have? I just looked at the clock and.
We're scheduled to end about 10:45.
Okay, so I'll do this in basically 3 minutes. About a decade ago, the legislature created the first of its kind in the country with league support called the Utah Outdoor Recreation Grant Program. And it's funded from state transient room tax. It was the first time that the state imposed TRT. Prior to that, it was all city and county TRT. That state TRT was time limited and was funding to pay for outdoor recreation amenities. Since that time, we've been successful at repealing the sunset, so it's now ongoing money. We've been successful at increasing the amount of money going into that fund. But what we heard loud and clear from our fast-growing cities a couple of years ago at our league conference was what Mayor Mon was just indicating, and the inability to keep up with park demand, and what we refer to as programmable space. So it's not just the bike trail, it's not just the BMX park, it's can you actually play soccer there? Can you play baseball there, et cetera? So we went to the governor's office through what was then known as the Unified Economic Opportunity Commission and got them to prioritize creating a program similar to ATIF that is under the umbrella of the Outdoor Recreation Grant, and it's called the Community Parks and Recreation Grant. And Mayor Mon's right, Syracuse applied for this along with 91 other applications last year, and the funds were awarded about 6 weeks ago. This past year was the first time that that program was expanded to include the types of regional parks that Mayor Mon is referencing. So this is the first go around, and we had 92 total projects apply. To put that in context, the UARG grant, the traditional programs, they had 105 total projects. So we almost doubled the amount of projects applying by adding community parks and recreation to that pool. There was about $16 million in that pool. We had over $42 million worth of applications. And so strategically, that is a really good thing because it allows us to go back to the legislature and say, there is a tremendous need out here for expanding this CPR program, the Community Parks and Recreation Program. And Mayor Mon, you talked about the link, and I want to follow up with you offline because the link to communities that are planning for growth is part of that discussion with UORG as well as with the Fifth that your county has not yet imposed, but is considering. And there's a link there to reward communities like Syracuse that are doing their part to plan for growth. So I agree with everything Mayor Mon was saying about that partnership with the state. And I think we have the tool in place because we got that changed a year ago. Now I think we need to inundate that program even more. I would love to have $100 million worth of requests and $200 million worth of requests so we can go back to the legislature and demonstrate the need for it. And the mayor referenced the ATIF program, and the ATIF had one-time money when the legislature had a surplus of non-income tax money, and they were able to put a lot in the ATIF. The ongoing's much less. Unfortunately, last year, their budget situation at the state was really dire, and they're expecting cuts again this year. So to me, it's how do we demonstrate the return on investment that the state partnering with Syracuse will lead to economic growth and quality of life? How do we show this need around the state, which we started doing with these 92 projects that applied last year? I see other cities on the line. I know Layton applied. I know Far West applied. And there were other communities that, because I've got the full spreadsheet right here of every project in the state that applied for it, because we want to be able to tell the story to the legislature that if they prioritize this, it's going to benefit their collective constituents going forward in the quality of life. So, Hugh, I think I'll wrap by saying this program will open up again next year, and I would welcome Mayor Mon, WFRC, and other partners building out the list, starting with the projects that didn't get funded this year, and building out that list so we can show here's the need at that local level, and then can we push for additional funding even in a bad budget year for the state to achieve this win-win outcome for the collective constituents of the legislature and cities.
Hey, thanks, Cameron. Yeah, clearly a lot of moving parts here and a lot of things to consider, and feels like everybody though is on board with this idea that hey, we need more resources as cities respond to the growth requests and needs of their communities. Need some additional resources from the state to help with that. So, Mayor Mon, I would love to give you the last word.
Hugh,
yeah, please.
Hugh, sorry, just one other point I wanted to agree with Mayor Mon on. Impact fees do not cover the cost of infrastructure, never have, never will. And there's still immense pressure at the Capitol to reduce those impact fees, particularly parks fees. And then the second piece is on the property tax side, there's efforts every year at the legislature to reduce impact fees and reduce property tax. So the more collectively we can tell the story of like why we need these revenue streams, the easier it is for us to hold off those attacks, to remove them altogether. And then, Soren, I see your point about the self-created crisis. I guess the one caveat I would make there is most of the state surplus in recent years has been in the income tax, and the income tax still has some constitutional requirements on how it can be spent. They could not spend income tax on parks. They just can't under the Constitution. And so that's one of the tricky points here is the legislature has cut income tax, but they haven't seen the growth in sales tax. They did increase tourism taxes this year, and we preserved the UORG money because we didn't want that money to get diverted. So we preserved every dime of the UORG money as part of the discussion around the state tourism taxes, and legislative leaders were supportive of that. But it's messy and complicated, but the more we work together on this, the more we have an opportunity to invest in the quality of life infrastructure that we all need.
Thank you, Cam. Appreciate that. Mayor Mon, I'd love to give you the last word if you have one.
Thank you. So I just want to say that, cities like ours, we're all looking for creative ways to find solutions. And we're looking for the opportunities that we can work together. I think that if we support each other and try to say, look, these are needs in our community, these are opportunities for us to support the growth. Again, I think that if we start to change the conversation to carrot versus stick, stop trying to pull away or penalize cities who don't do enough, start finding ways to reward those who are part of the solution and are working with the legislature, I think that we can find some great opportunities. Parks are so important. Everybody, the more dense our housing gets, the more you need someplace, somewhere for people to seek some relief and some place for, just to grow and breathe. And we're really taking that away by putting all of the emphasis on taking away cities' impact fees, taking away their ability to fund things and speeding up the growth. So I'm not against it. We are not the NIMBY city that says you can't do it here. We have done it. We've proved it. What we want is some help with all of the things that the growing pains that come with it.
Yeah, well said. Thank you, ma'am. Well, a lot more to come, I think, in that space. Just sort of touch the tip of the iceberg, so to speak. But with that, as we're closing in our meeting time here, we'll move on to item number 6, which is other business and adjournment. And I'll just mention really briefly that at our last Active Transportation Committee meeting, Bert Granberg presented the Utah Bikeways map, and it was not quite live at the time, but now it is live. Just pop the URL into the chat. It's bikeways.utah.gov. And this is showing everything that we know of regarding existing bike infrastructure throughout the state. So please explore that. There's a way to comment if something's missing. Let us know about your new project so we can get it on the map and help people know what's on the ground for them to navigate around. But with that, unless there's any other business, entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Mayor. Can I get a second, please?
Second.
Thanks. And that was, sorry, I didn't catch who that was.
Oh, that was me, Jared.
Thanks, Jared. Okay. Assuming there's nobody opposed, we'll close the meeting and thank you all for your attendance today. Be in touch. Have a great summer.
Thanks you and everyone.
Bye.